All right, welcome everybody. It's Doug here with the LincolnList.com. We're going to take a look at some technical levels and possible trade setups for the 24th of February. Just a few days left here in this month. So if you're kind of reviewing your P&L and you're a little bit disappointed about it, you really expected more maybe this whole entire year and you're just kind of falling behind a little bit, visit the LincolnList.com, take a 14-day free trial to the live trade room, see if our educational format can get you to the next level. Let's take a look a little bit here about WCG. A lot of these healthcare stocks have really been on fire lately, and this one's had a couple of nice days moving pretty methodically from 75 close to 90 here. And it's probably time to kind of look at shorting if you're not already long in this, especially today. You had a really nice breakout setup here where you were testing previous highs roughly around this 84.45, and then when it just kind of explodes through it, it doesn't turn back. Accompanied with the rest of the ones in the sector, this thing really starts to stretch today and goes up quite a few percentage points. As always in this situation, especially after a run like this, it would be nice if you could catch a decent little gap, but sometimes you don't get that chance. Like Cyber, we talked about that one last night. Was really looking for that gap to double up on the short, but in the end, it just started to fade right away. It was already gapping down in pre-market. So if you can kind of push above 90, maybe put that one last run in there that really sets to a tier 1 trade where you kind of have to go a little bit heavy in my opinion. Love that strategy, love that setup. Now, let's say that does not happen and you don't get a bounce. If you do get a small one that doesn't go over 90.37, I'd be interested in shorting. Also, if you break down this VWAP here late in the day held pretty strong, this 89.10. So I kind of look for that. Maybe if you get a really weak bounce and then an opportunity to see this break, then you could short here using a stop, maybe somewhere in the say the high 89s, somewhere in that area. It did do a good job, I said, over the last couple of hours holding that level. So if you can get underneath of that, could be a nice little fade. As always, you don't want to really chase into the weakness. If it starts out the day gapping down or flushes, then you kind of have to wait for another setup. But if we can hold above this number, maybe put in a weak bounce, better yet gap up, would love to do a little bit of this WCG as a short. Same thing with PCYC. This stock is a great trading stock. It gets on these runs where it'll go nice and parabolic like this and really ramp up. Makes for a great short. Often people will ask, how come you don't long it? And that's because by the time it breaks out and starts ripping, I'm not long, and the only opportunity I have to make money on it is if it gets out of control, makes a nice little short. Same thing here as what you saw with WCG. You had a great setup for longs and a really legit play there crossing into that 179. And then once it does that, it just really explodes all day long, and it does tail off a little bit late in the day, moving from about 195 to 187. It's got some deep range, but even that, it still finished the day plus 10 bucks. So there's still, in my opinion, a lot of room in this one. This one moved back down a little bit more, cut that late day support. So I would like to see another pop that puts you at about 192.50 to 193. Maybe kind of walk right back up into that number, then allow that would set you up nice for a short. Then you could use a stop about right up here. Just with WC, same as WCG, if you start flushing out early, you probably don't want to mess around with a short. You actually might, if it were to gap down and flush quickly, you might even want to look for a long. I probably wouldn't do that in this case, but I couldn't disagree with that. If you start flushing out down to the 182s and 180s, could provide a nice little long there on a quick bounce. Also, we want to take a look here at this TSM. Excuse me, TSEM. TSEM. This one was another nice one here. This one went right into the resistance here by a few pennies, just covered it by a few pennies, and then kind of fell back over. There might have been a little too much here for a retrace. Maybe that's just a little bit too much of a fade. You got this little area of support here. And I guess the same theme is going on with all of these is that they really were set up nicely intraday as they started. And what I want you to kind of take a look at here is a great lesson. They started ramping up and they continued to ramp the first couple of hours. And oftentimes the stocks that we discussed in the watch list, you don't see those until the next day. You don't see these kind of moves. And then all of a sudden you get this one stock that just wants to grind it out all day. And if they get a little bit ramped up or they start to separate from their short-term moving averages, such as the 20, the 50 moving average or something like that, they make for some really good shorts. This was a nice little setup and a nice fade. There still could be some room in it, but just as with the others, we want to make sure that we get a bounce here because we're so close to support that if you break that and you chase into that number, you might get that instant squeeze to push back on you, and you really don't want that. So TSEM, I like this one here too. It might have given up a little bit too much, but we'll see what this thing can do here tomorrow. And last, I'm going to put this little Cap'n, CAPN, could be the next stupid cheapo stock that starts running. You got this little essay article on it, and now you're seeing a little bit of squeeze here happening after hours. You know, this thing looked like a really good short here, and this is how these things start. They start with some really good parabolic moves and lots of volume, steep RSIs, and then they'll fade a little bit, and then once they reach a certain point, if they don't fade that first time around, they get scooped back up. You saw that today, just kind of leveling off here at this 520 area, holding up, and then towards the late day you get this nice squeeze, and here after hours as I'm doing this, thing's pushed up towards 7. If you look at that at the daily chart, this thing's now clean in clean air. Now I'm not going to say this is going to turn into a gene, but you never know. You might see a move towards 10. We've seen crazier things in this market for sure. It's definitely a stock that probably should have come down. Trading on the NASDAQ smells like a nice little low float rotation, super squeeze into the 10s and 11s, and who knows, maybe even the 15s before it's done. At this point, I wouldn't be interested in buying it. I would only be interested in trading through the distribution phase as a short. For example, Gene, and hopefully for this trade, it just continues on tomorrow and squeezes into 10. And maybe the following day you start to see 11 or 12. And then after that, you know, maybe we're looking at Wednesday, Thursday, you start to see some red, then go in short. If it doesn't set up quite that way, I think I'll just pass completely because these are not my favorites, you know, especially when you have these stocks like Gene, that's what you're looking for. It's going to get that red day, that distribution day where you really start to see lower lows, no more buying off of the dips. But when a stock gaps like, or not when a stock gaps like this, but when it's strong, has a strong day, is unable to lose most of that. You know, once you had a couple of days selling in here, should have got down into here for the shorts. That's what they wanted to see, this thing down in the 440s or start really significantly retracing that. You don't see that, and then you start to see the snapback move really can lead to higher prices. So kind of, you know, if you're long, I wouldn't chase it definitely here at 7. That's probably going to get you into a little bit of trouble. Hell, maybe it works out, who knows, but it's not a good piece of discipline to develop in your trading career. But just keep your eyes on this one. We'll see how it works over the next couple of days. It's going to have to set up, as I said, a certain way for me to even want to bother trading this one. But there's going to be a lot of people on it. They may even crowd this up short early tomorrow, and who knows, it might squeeze a little bit more. So we'll keep our eye on it. So we got some nice stuff there going into tomorrow. It looks like it's going to be another promising day. Looks like it's going to be another strong February and looking to finish it off well. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, if you're kind of struggling there a little bit, you're bouncing around from chat room to chat room, or you're following a bunch of people on Twitter and you can't really figure this whole trading thing out, you seem to be a step behind everyone else, you seem to not be able to find the hot stocks at the right time and get in execution, your ideas aren't right, your management of your trades is faltering, don't give up. Visit thelincolnlist.com, take a 14-day free trial. Other than that, thanks for watching this video. Take care of yourself and enjoy the rest of your day.